Hi friends, today we're going to talk about these clay pots. I got a few from Goodwill stores, thrift stores, and I made this one over yesterday and I started the next size up. I'm using Das air dry clay. It's my favorite clay, and I have a few different molds, IOD molds and redesigned with Prima molds around. Not sure which one I'm going to use yet, but I think I'm going to use this one, that one. I'm going to post all the molds I used in the description below. Let's start with this mold. I'm going to use that tag on the front. You need to warm up your clay in your hands and use baking soda to help the clay come out of the mold easier without tearing. Push your clay in. Use the micro rim that IOD provides to cut your clay nice and even everywhere. You can always use a spatula like I do here, or a credit card or whatever you have available that's sharp and it's not gonna injure the image. And you just, it pops really easy out. That's the reason we use the baking soda. I'm gonna put that on the front, and I'm gonna use a trimming for the rim. I use Quick and Thick. It's a good clay and it dries pretty fast. With big castings like that, you might need to secure them for a few minutes until they dry. The clay pots would absorb a lot of that moisture that is in the glue. And I am using now my small brush dipped in water to clean the excess glue. Now I'm using IOD's Trimmings 3. I want to cast a couple of the top, the larger one. And I believe that's all it took. It was to go all the way around. IOD's molds, they are meant to fit together, so there is a beginning and an end, and they fit perfectly. When you try to add, this is the second one. Using the glue again, spread it with my fingers, and I set it where it's supposed to be to look like one continuous trim. Again, with a small brush dipped in water, you clean up your extra glue. And because these molds are very thick and hold a lot of material, I like to secure them until they are dry. On the second one, I'm going to use IOD's Trimmings number 2. And on this one, it's going to take a little bit over 2 of those molds because they're a little bit shorter. That particular one is a little bit shorter than any of the other ones. So I'm going to have to trim and paste around it. That's the second one. Always push enough so you can get a good imprint of your mold, all the details and everything. And put enough glue that it's not gonna squeeze out too much, but enough to hold it. I know I have a heavy hand on the glue. Here it is where I have to cut a little bit to connect them together. And later, as you're going to see, it's going to shrink at that small spot a little bit, so I'm going to have to add. I use these stamps to make the imprint in the clay while it's still fresh. I'm using the Viridis Toadstool mold to create the mushrooms. I love that mold. I love these little mushrooms. Their details are so realistic. And I'm using again the Trimmings 3. I'm casting a few of the different molds there. You can always make them with resin. I love clay. It gives me more flexibility, I think. And I like to let my clay dry. A lot of people like to put a coat of paint. I've tried that. And, you know, in my opinion, I had more cracks. So I let them dry overnight. And besides, when you use paint on a freshly cast mold, it smears the image a little bit. That's how all look now. They're nice and dry. See what you see, what I'm saying, I got a little bit of crack. Normally, I have it in the seams if I let them dry on their own. And now what I'm doing is rub a little bit of the clay in my fingers and I push it in with a wet brush, and you won't be able to see the seam. And the images look perfect because I let them dry on their own in a cool room. If you let them dry in a warm room, they're going to shrink even more and you're going to have more cracks. But in a cool room, they dry from the inside out evenly. In a warm room, I've seen them dry on the outside, but still the inside is more, it cracks faster because the outside dries faster than the inside. So I'm doing a little bit of what you call surgery, or adding a little bit of the mold there. Now I'm using plaster by Waverly, and I'm going to put a first coat of that. I'm going to do 3 light color pots, and 3 they're going to be dark. So I'm using the plaster on the 3 lighter ones. And then I'm going to go add some baking soda, a lot of baking soda, make the paint thick. Use your brushes that you don't care about. I used chalk paint in the color Java, right here. I like that harsh chocolate brown, and I'm adding a lot of that baking soda. I wanted to make it thick enough that it's going to hold peaks as I tap. Actually, this is the first coat on those, but that's how I'm going to make it look rough. So I'm going light on the baking soda on that, so I can put my first coat on. And I'm putting on top of the molds. I don't want too much, so it's going to distort the images. You can go without even the baking soda, just do a solid color first, and then you can do a thick coat of baking soda. But if you go with a thick coat, you're going to distort all this detail and the lettering that I did on the tag. Now everywhere that is a crack or whatever, you can go heavier with your paint, baking soda paint. I'm cleaning up as I go. If I added too much on one spot. And that's repetitive. Do all the other two with a dark chocolate paint. And here they are after the first coat is dried. Now I'm gonna go with a heavier coat. See how it looks like a thick, like a think pancake mix. There's not gonna be runny. And I'm going on top, tap it, tap, 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 you know, kind of thing. And if you see that your picks do not stay up, you can add some more of the baking soda. Sometimes it's a trial and error thing. You have to try and see here. And do, you know, as you go, you can correct that. Don't go over your images too much. You can brush the lightly so they don't look new. But you cannot tap on them because you're gonna clog all these details. I'm using again the mineral that I used on the first coat, and I'm gonna use the baking soda again to thicken up. You can use sea spray, you can use seawater, I think it's called. I had the baking soda, so that's what I'm using. And I don't like buying, you know, supplies if I have something to substitute with. And the same here, you go around the mushrooms. I needed some more. Not on top, just brush a little bit so you can leave a little bit of that grit that the baking soda creates. So everything looks like it's old, it's been out in the weather, out in the garden for a while. But you don't want to distort your images. My little cat wants to play now. Same thing, you need to make sure your picks stay up. Because sometimes if it's a little bit too thin, it's gonna look like it's staying up, but then they're gonna kind of disappear. They're gonna calm down. You don't want that, you want them to stay thick and rough. And I'm doing the same with this one. That was created with the IOD mold. It's called Viridis. It's one of my favorite molds. This is how they look now. And when dry, we're gonna go on the dark ones with a lighter color. I'm gonna use drop cloth, I believe I have there, to create that look. Yes, drop cloth. Take a chip brush, just a tiny bit of paint, and tap out most of it. And you're gonna dry brush over the high peaks that you have created and over all the images. Just barely touch. And of course you can go a little bit heavier if you like more color, or you can go a little bit lighter if you want just a little tiny bit. Now it makes everything comes to life. The letters, the images. And we're gonna go all the way around on all of them. Tap the excess out. Repeat the same thing over and over. And I'm doing that on the inside as well. Whatever you do on the outside, you will do on the inside. See how all your picks are visible now? I love that mold. In the beginning, when I got it, I didn't think I was gonna like it, but actually has become one of my favorite trimmings molds. I have created a big tray. You can see the video. It was a few weeks ago video. And that looks amazing, actually. I will post a link to it in the description below. Now I'm going with fluff, which is a lighter, almost bright white. And I highlight again the peaks, the higher points. And it looks like, the sun hits on those points, make them look a little bit lighter. That's what you want to achieve. And you can play with colors. You can use different ones. You can use green. You can, look more mossy, or, that has been dirty. You can create your own colors. But if you get the idea on how to apply them, then you can play with colors. I love this mold. You can see now all the flowers, the leaves, and everything else on that tag. That's a redesign with Prima tag. And actually this is a beautiful tag. It has banners, and it's called the Blooming Banners. That's the name of that tag. The mold, sorry. Again, the same thing. Highlight with both colors. The burlap and the fluff. Those two are my favorite colors. I use them a lot. In the off-white kind of color. Same thing, inside, out. It looks amazing. On the white one, I play with the fluff on top of the light color. I highlight the wings, the feathers, and everything. And before I put anything on top of the light ones, I will use the clear wax to seal them. Just in case, if I don't like the color underneath, it'd be much easier to remove it or manipulate it. Now I'm using Paint Couture's glaze, VanDyke glaze. I like the harsh chocolate color of that. Glaze is easy to manipulate and it's water soluble. If you think it's too dark, you can spray it and spread it again. Spreads really easily with water. It's the same glaze. I just had a little bit on the sample and I ordered a larger can of it. So, and you can take as much out of it as you want. And you can always add if you missed spots or if you took out too much. It's very easy to work with. I love glaze. I love glaze better than dark wax. I think it's easier to manipulate. It sits in all the low areas really well, and you can easily pull it out of the high areas. And wipe, like I said, as much as you want. Of course, if you don't like that rustic look, you can always use one color or paint the leaves, green and everything, make it your own. It's no big deal, just have fun. In the end, I will seal everything. Of course, it's off camera. I haven't, I don't show it on the video. But I used 3 coats of the Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch Ultra Cover in a clear gloss color on the inside and 2 on the outside. Here they are, done. And I also spray painted with Rust-Oleum 2X spray paint in clear because it's more matte. I didn't want them to be glossy. So that's how they look. I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. If you did, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. That would help my little channel grow. I appreciate you being here with me today. And until next time, have a wonderful time, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.